Hello, my friends. Russ Morgan here with another half an hour of book talk. James Patterson is here with us today, and we are very fortunate and having him stop in his busy itinerary. James, thank you.
It's great to be here.
It's a great privilege and a great pleasure to have you here.
The pleasure's mine.
There are some folks out there who may not be totally familiar with your background, so I would kind of like to go a little bit in depth just before we start.
Could it probably be new to me, too?
Would it be new to you?
Sure.
Okay, let's try it here.
Tell me what I've done.
James Patterson is one of the top-selling novelists in the world today. His debut novel, The Thomas Berryman Number, won the Edgar Award for the first best mystery novel. It was published by Little Brown in 1976 when he was just 27 years old, after being turned down by more than 24 other publishers. He has since written a string of major national bestsellers that includes the 5 books in the series featuring detective psychologist Alex Cross. Along Came a Spider, Kiss the Girls, Jack and Jill, Cat and Mouse, and Pop Goes the Weasel, as well as Cradle and All, When the Wind Blows, and Hide and Seek. In November 2000, Little Brown will publish the 6th book in the Cross series, Roses Are Red, and in April 2001 will launch a new Patterson series with the publication of First to Die, the novel that introduces the Woman's Murder Club. Paramount Pictures' feature film adaptation of Kiss the Girls, starring Morgan Freeman as Alex Cross, was a box office hit in 1997. Freeman will reprise the Cross role in the film adaptation of the first novel in the series, Along Came a Spider, now in production and slated for release in spring of 2001. NBC bought the rights to First to Die with plans to produce a 4-hour miniseries to air during the May 2001 sweeps period. In addition to writing novels, Mr. Patterson served as chairman of J. Walter Thompson North America from 1990 to 1996. He began his advertising career as a junior copywriter with the company in 1971 and went on to become the youngest executive creative director and youngest chief executive officer in the company's history. Made his mark at the agency.
But if you go into this advertising stuff, see, as an advertising man, I'd be sitting here with the book right next to my face like this.
Why don't you do that?
But I've been clean for 5 years. Haven't been in advertising, yeah.
He collaborated with advertising colleague Peter Kim to produce the nonfiction bestseller, The Day America Told the Truth. He grew up in Newburgh, New York. He graduated summa cum laude with a BA in English from Manhattan College and summa cum laude with an MA in English from Vanderbilt University. And James, I would like to add a couple more things here too. On this book,
He's not scary, Jim Patterson.
He isn't.
Nice guy, yeah.
Roses Are Red is on the book stands now, and to give you an idea of his following out there, the first printing was 1,225,000 books. And
that's scary too.
Really saying something. You are the ultimate puzzle.
When we just met, how did you figure that out so quickly?
You have come from a marvelous background, and of course with the education and so forth, to write.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back to 1976. You wrote your first one and were refused by many, many publishers.
Yeah, I was refused by, I think, 31 publishers for Thomas Berryman. And then the ironic thing is it went on to win an Edgar for the best first mystery. Mm-hmm. So, if you ever get turned down by any publishers in New York, take that as a mark of honor. And just, yeah, same thing happened to John Grisham. He got Time to Kill got turned down by everybody in New York. Small publisher, printed up not that many copies, but, he just kept going. And going and going.
After that, what? You got your start then?
Yeah, and Berryman did fine. No, I was still doing the advertising.
Yeah.
I was in the advertising, yeah. I enjoyed it, and I continued to write on the side. And it really took me a long time before I decided, I'm just going to go off and write books. I now have a 2.5-year-old little boy.
That's the experience.
So I get to be home. Well, it's very lucky for us because we're home all day with them. We get to see them grow up, which a lot of parents don't get that opportunity with their children. And I, write books at the same time. So it's great at home.
This is, if I am counting right, about your 20th book.
I'm glad you counted them up because I never know the answer to that one. 20? Good. That's easy to remember.
Approximately. Those are the ones you own up to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right.
Every writer has some he doesn't own up to, so we'll just take the 20.
I don't. Yeah, the ones, the Marcel Proust ones. I don't admit that that's one of my pseudonyms. Yeah.
Roses Are Red is the 6th in the Alex Cross series.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to us about Alex Cross. How did he come about?
How did Alex Cross come about? Well, one of the questions that always comes up, or it frequently comes up, is how is it that a white author has created this powerful black family? When I grew up in this small river town about 70 miles north of New York City. And my grandparents own a tiny restaurant. The cook in the restaurant was a black woman named Laura. And when I was around 3, she was having trouble with her husband. And just the way my family was and the way people were back then, the family just said, well, move in with us. So Laura moved in with us, and she was a terrific lady, and she became a sort of a co-mother for me. But also, during this 4 years, I spent a lot of times with her family, her aunts and uncles and nieces and nephews. And during that time with them, I found them to be just, I loved the togetherness of that family, the warmth and the humor. And I also, even as a little kid, I was aware of the fact that their neighborhood was tough and kind of violent and scary. And also in those days, it was scary for them to go out into white neighborhoods. Not because of violence, but just psychic damage that they, and that just stayed with me, the notion of that family, the feeling of that family, and that's where the Cross family came from. And in the Cross books, while there's a lot of action and they keep pumping along, and they are page turners, and I think there aren't enough page turners around. But the other side of the Cross novels, and I think what makes them very popular, is people get attached to this family. There is a moral center, and like the books with LaHaye and Tom and Jerry, they, good and evil is really what the books are all about. These books, and it's really family against unfortunate, sometimes evil circumstances in the world.
When it came time to cast him in the movies, Muhammad Ali was not available.
Muhammad Ali wasn't available. I'll tell you a quick movie story which will illustrate my power out in Hollywood. I went to the shooting of Kiss the Girls, and everybody was very nice. Morgan Freeman is wonderful. I mean, when you watch him act, in the same way that Michael Jordan used to rise above everybody, both figuratively and literally on the court, Morgan's that way. He's just so confident, talented, smooth, never makes a mistake. And no matter who he's acting with, he just looks like he's the professional, and they're not quite on the same level. But I soon found out on the movie set that, as nice as they were to me, the novelist ranked somewhere below the caterer. They knew why the caterer was there. They weren't quite sure whether the novelist showed up. So I don't really have any influence on what they do. However, I was delighted that they picked Morgan Freeman to play Alex Cross, because he's just such a great actor.
Just as a clinical question, did they pay you for being on the set?
Did they pay me? No, they made me pay my own airfare.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
What's ahead for Alex?
Well, the new movie in the spring, Along Came a Spider, and it's been tested and all the stuff they do in Hollywood. Hollywood is very funny, though. We had been hearing great things about Along Came a Spider. They said it was much better than Kiss the Girls, and it had tested extremely well. But, we were wondering whether, because they fib a little bit out there. So the Hollywood agent finally called somebody that wasn't involved at the studio, and the word came back to me from the studio person, and the line was, Along Came a Spider is really, really strong. And then the executive felt compelled to add, and I'm not lying. So that's kind of Hollywood. But anyway, it's supposed to be a really good movie. So that's part of Alex. I know they had a good time on the shoot, Morgan and Lee Tamahoy, who directed it. And I know they're thinking about doing Cat and Mouse, so we'll see what happens. So there might be another one in the offing. We got The Roses Are Red Now, which is kind of number one everywhere, all the chains and the independents and whatever. So it's doing real well. It just came out a week ago. And I'm just finishing the next Alex Cross, which will be out in next fall. But before then, I have two other hardcovers this year. I have a hardcover in March called First to Die, and it was a real challenge for me because it's a different mystery series. It's about 4 women. They're all very, very good at what they do. One is an assistant district attorney. One is a medical examiner. One is a homicide inspector with the San Francisco Police Department. And the other is a reporter for the San Francisco Chronicle. They all get involved in a huge case out there. There's some honeymoon murders in San Francisco. They don't know each other that well, but one night they say, let's go out and have a drink and talk about the information we have. And they decide that they're going to start sharing information. They form a kind of women's murder club to kind of try to solve this case. And I think the book turned out real well. Early readings have been great on it. NBC bought it for miniseries, which I think is going to be out in November. So that'll be a lot of fun. And then in July, I have a love story coming.
Total change of pace.
It is and it isn't. I have a 2.5-year-old boy, and I think a lot about children now. My wife's been doing a little diary for him. And this is a mother's diary for her infant son. It is a very sad story. You will cry if you have any kind of heart when you read this book. And when I went to the publisher, I said, I have an idea for a story. Let me just try it on you. And it was two kind of tough New Yorkers. And when I told them the story, they both cried. And I said, well, I have to try to write this and see if I can, make it happen on the page. And what's different, I think, about this book, which kind of goes in the Bridges of Madison County category, I guess if you were going to categorize it, is that it's very emotional, but you can't stop turning the pages. You want to know what happens next, and it's heartfelt. So you're touched by it a lot, and that's what we're hearing from everybody who's reading it. So busy year, and then in the next year around this time, there's a new Alex Cross, which I've been writing on the plane as I've been taking the tour. Yeah.
I was amazed when you told me before we got together here that you still write with a pen and pencil.
Yeah, I do. I write with a pencil. I'm not on the computer. I have a person who types for me. I get back the manuscript triple spaced. I write between the lines. I just find it to be very easy for me. I can go over just what I rewrote in minutes, go over it again, and then I can do a draft in about a month. And I'll do 6 or 7 drafts, which allows me to concentrate. Each time I do a draft, I concentrate on just a few things, like, do I like what's happening with Alex Cross? Is he growing? Is he evolving? I might do that one draft, just kind of concentrate on that, make sure there's enough new things about him in the book to keep him interesting to people. One draft, I might work on twists and turns. I'll just look at every chapter and I go, well, this happened. What if this happened? What if this happened? Which is why I think there are so many twists in my books, because I'll write it the way it comes to me the first time, and then in succeeding drafts, I just go, well, what if I did this? What if I did that? And that's kind of fun. Eventually I go, it's working pretty well, and it goes off to the publisher.
Talk to the young writers out there about the hook.
Young writers.
When does your hook come in? Do you have the hook when you start the book, or do you develop the hook as you go along?
I start with, in fact, I have a whole folder of more ideas than I could ever use in a million years. And in fact, I'm doing it now. I'm sitting with myself, I say, trying to think about what the next Cross book will be. And I like there to be a good what-if premise, or something that's going to hold you, or something that I feel emotional about. In Roses Are Red, the old advertising guy, this book, when I was a small boy, I remember, I'll never forget this night, I was sleeping, and my father came in. It was 1 o'clock in the morning or so, and he was all dressed. He had his boots on and a whole bowl of wax, and I don't quite understand what he's doing in my room. And at that period, there had been some bank robbers in our county for the past few weeks, and they've been causing a lot of trouble and consternation and worry. And he said that the police were in our woods, and they thought that the bank robbers might be somewhere up in the woods there. And he said, don't worry, go back to sleep. So he left, and I'm going I'm checking under the bed, I'm looking in the closet. I'm a little kid, Then I knew where they were. They were outside that dark window,
Yeah.
So that experience and the fear that it awakened in me, unintentionally by my father, that's where Roses Are Red starts. There are a series of really nasty bank robberies, and as is the case in all my books, it then turns into something you don't expect it to turn into. There is a spectacular ransom scene in this book of the sort I don't think anybody's ever dealt with. or read about before, and the FBI helped me with it, which is kind of interesting. People are liking this book. It works well for people.
It's been out how long now? Actually,
About a week.
about a week.
Yeah.
I would imagine that, we were just found out here in the library that they haven't got it. It's gone. It's been checked out so much that they can't keep it in.
Yeah.
I don't know how many copies they've got.
Well, I mean, that's one of the problems with libraries. Obviously, the funding is never what people hope it will be, and so it's hard for them to get as many books from all authors that they need.
Walking backwards now. Putting together a mystery in particular
I'm always tempted, let's do it. Let's see. So there's something a dance.
is like putting together a puzzle, and the various pieces of it have to go absolutely in place, or the story doesn't gel. It doesn't work. And for the realism that you have in Roses Are Red and the rest of your books, you've put those pieces together marvelously. Now, how do you do that from a clinical standpoint? Do you ever go back and have to insert something?
Yeah, sure. I start contractually. I have to submit an outline, and it happens. I think that's a great tool, especially if you want to write commercial fiction.
Yeah.
Because it gets you to really lay out that story and to be serious about it and think it through. And I also think it's helpful when you sit down on a given morning that you have the idea for that chapter already, because it's in the outline, that you're not sitting there and going like, okay, what are we going to do today? What's Alex going to do? Where's this story going to go? I think that would be impossible. I think it'd be almost impossible to tell a real, well, it isn't because some writers write that way, but it would be impossible for me.
How much does it change from the
I don't hold myself to it, so it can change a lot. As I said, I'll throw twists, and I never know what the ending's going to be. I guarantee that people will not predict the ending of Roses Are Red, for example. And I didn't know that's where it was going to end. I had no idea.
That kind of backs into my next question. When
We're still walking backwards? Yeah, okay.
When do you write the ending?
Usually at the end, yeah.
Really?
Sure. Usually it's the third or fourth draft that I settle on an ending, and sometimes it's occasionally it's been after I submitted the book to the publisher.
Talk to me more about.
Sometimes it's after the book is published, and I go, oh, I know what the ending should have been.
Well, you mentioned, or rather, I picked up in your promotional material that you have, in certain cases, had to write more than one ending, and particularly for the movies. Is that difficult?
No, there was really only one case. It was Cat and Mouse, and we had these advanced copies that went out to booksellers, and I kept hearing the same sentence. I got to the end, and I threw the book against the wall. And I went, this is interesting. Let me try another ending here. And the problem that people had was that it was such a cliffhanger, but they knew they were going to have to wait another year to have it answered, that they really were irritated. I wrote another ending which I liked, and what happened was the American publisher took the new ending, the British publisher took the original ending. Now comes the next book. I have to either write two books or rectify the fact that I've got two endings out there. So that's what I had to do with Pop Goes the Weasel.
What did the movies do with it?
They haven't made that yet.
A third ending, maybe?
Yeah. They're going to do what they do. They changed Kiss the Girls a bit. They changed Along Came a Spider a lot. So it's a good movie, but they changed a lot of it. Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Well, I'll tell you what I really treasure about the Hollywood experience, and I think anybody who's listening or watching would also feel the same way, and that is cashing the check. It's neat. It's fun, and I was on a panel once with John Brent, who wrote Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, and they asked him how he felt about the movie. And he said, I'm tired of hearing authors whine about the movies they make from your books. He said, you don't have to sell them. And it's true. You do not have to sell. Nobody's saying you must sell the book to Hollywood. You decide because you want to cash the check that you do it. If you do it, then, you know that sometimes they don't turn out that well. And you just have to take your chances. Sometimes they turn out well. Silence of the Lambs, I would think that Thomas Harris was pretty happy with the way that turned out. Striptease, I would think Carl Hiaasen was very disappointed with the way that one turned out. So, you just never know. I know Elmore Leonard, I guess, was disappointed for a while, and then with Get Shorty, they kind of got his tone down and did a good job with it.
The book with the four ladies is quite a departure. In fact, it's a whole different direction now. Where did these four gals come from originally?
Well, in March we have First to Die, which will be this whole new series. The challenge for me was, one, writing as a woman, which I didn't really have that much trouble with for reasons I'll get into, but the other piece of it was to introduce four characters and also keep the pace moving forward. That was a real challenge. Yeah. And I was worried about it, but I really liked the way it turned out. I grew up in a house full of women.
That helped.
Mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, 3 sisters, 2 cats, and occasionally my father and I.
Female?
The cats were female.
Cats were female.
And they were more trouble than any of the rest of them. So I have the buzz of women in my head, and I prefer generally to talk to women than to men. I like that sort of like, we can talk about anything, and we're going to weave around. And, with men, it's sort of like, we're going to talk football, we're going to talk directions to such and such a place, and it's very down the middle a lot of times. And I like as you can see, weaving around, and, So once I get into it, I found that it all flowed well. In the book, this First to Die, they get together a lot, and their sessions that they have to solve the crime are not, let's just talk about the crime. How you doing? How's your baby? How's your love life? Well, what about this crime? So it kind of weaves around a little bit, and it's good. I think it's a good way to solve problems, because a lot of times when men solve problems, you almost think like they got the answer already, so why are they together?
Yeah.
No, here it is. Well, it's not. If we had the answer, we didn't have to get together. So, I think it's better to go, well, could be here, could be here, could be here, could be here. It's not necessarily here. But all that makes any sense.
I think that keeps you alive as a writer also.
Yeah. No, it's great. Now, the challenges are the best thing for me. And, and then writing this love story was another one. I knew that the story was powerful. I didn't know whether I would be able to put it down in a way that readers would respond and feel what, that getting what's in your heart out onto the page is hard. A lot of times you'll hear people and they'll tell you a story and you go, that's great. And then you see what they wrote and you go, boy, it didn't appear on the page, unfortunately. Or the movie, different thing, same thing. Somebody's got a good idea but couldn't get it onto film.
Your first book, how many copies did they print of it?
3.
3?
No. First book, I think 6,500. Decent for those days. Yeah, nice. Got up to 12,000. It did. It did okay for.
Still in print though.
In paperback, yes.
Yeah, and this one 1,225,000.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and gray hairs. So it's a mixed blessing.
Well, again, if you don't have to take anything back, I would think now that you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, no, it's really a lot of fun, and when I go around the country and tour, I always talk about the fact that I love what I'm doing, and I like coming out. I like doing this. I like visiting. I like going to bookstores and signing and talking to people, and I love writing. It's not a job for me. And for some writers don't like it at all. Like Frederick Forsyth, who wrote Day of the Jackal, hated to write the novels. He hated to do it, and I love to do it. I just can't. I mean, this morning I was sitting in a pancake house, and I just wanted to sit down and write another. I was up at 5 this morning in the hotel writing, and I'm going to be on a plane after this, and I'll write on the plane.
So that means you're going to be writing from now on, as long as you can.
Oh yeah. Well, a couple of years ago I met Sidney Sheldon, who's like 81 or 82 now, and he's big, but he loves doing it. And he's still doing it in his 80s. And in fact, I met Howard Fast. Howard's in his 90s, and he's still, writing novels.
There'd be no reason not to if the mind is still clear.
Yeah, I mean, if you like to do it. At a certain point, I think with Sullivan, they just go like, I don't want to do it anymore.
When did you really believe that this is what you wanted to do?
Well, interesting thing with me, I was a real good student in high school, but I hated to read. And I still don't like Silas Marner. And I think they just gave us some books that I just wasn't interested in. I got a job right out of high school in a mental institution, a good hospital, and I worked a lot of night shifts, and I had a lot of time on my hand, and I used to go into Cambridge and just bring back everything I could get my hands on, serious fiction, and I found I loved it. And then I started scribbling, and I found I loved that. And at that point, I was hooked. And then I was lucky enough, at an early age of 26, to actually get a book published. So at that point, it was like, I love it. I'm making a couple of dollars off of it too, and this is great. Somebody said you're really lucky if you find something you love to do. Then it's a miracle if somebody will pay you to do it.
Well, were you in advertising when you published your first book?
Yes, I was.
So you stayed
I was
in
in advertising. I did. Yeah.
And also,
Well, it was one of those, if it ain't broke, don't, fix it kind of thing. It was okay. It was what I was doing, and I was lucky because some of the accounts that I worked on, I liked. I liked Kodak. We did a lot of Kodak. Toys R Us, I wrote, I don't want to grow up, I'm a Toys R Us kid. And that was, fun account to be on. So they weren't accounts that I found troublesome to work on.
well, I noticed there's a tremendous level of confidence there now with what we're doing and seeing here with Roses Are Red because you quit your day job.
I did, yeah, quite a while ago. Yeah.
And I assume you're going to stay quit on your day job.
Yeah, I don't think I'm likely to show up at an ad agency in the near future.
What is the next Alex
Other than to
Cross?
picket them for
You've
bad
got
ads
the
or
next.
something.
You've got the next Alex Cross done. What's the name?
It's not done. I'm not going to tell you the name. I don't do the titles don't get out. But it is, I'd say it's about 4/5 done.
4/5.
I'm into the several drafts in, and I think in a few weeks I'll get it to the publisher, and then we'll do maybe another couple of months after that.
What's it take another year to get it on the stands?
It will be out, probably same time next year, like Paul Simon and Neil Simon.
Well, I'll give you about 22 or 23 books under your.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
We have been talking to James Patterson, who is the writer of Roses Are Red and about 20 other novels. It's been marvelous having you here today.
It's great being here.
I hope the rest of your trip is very, very fruitful, and I hope they sell all 1,225,000 doses in the next 3-4 years.
Here, here.
James, it's been a pleasure having you here.
Nice to
Thank
meet
you
you.
very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for being with us. Bye-bye.
You're watching the Library Channel, a broadcast service of the Memphis Public Libraries and the City of Memphis.